Ashley couldn't fathom what she was seeing. The animal was so persistent, like a curious, oversized cat. It stalked her and Carter. Her heart was racing as she took another step back, and another. All the while, the bear continued its pursuit. But what did it want? Why has it been following the couple for the past 5 minutes? The ground was rough and patchy beneath her. She almost lost her footing several times. She looked down and could see her white sundress, weathered and torn, along with her pale white legs, cut and bruised from stumbling through the brush, fleeing this creature. What began as a nice little date in the Porcupine Mountains ended up being something far worse. What's up, guys? Iceman here. So this story is about a very unfortunate bear attack, and I warn you, it's quite harrowing. But before I get into it, I'd like to thank you all for your support on this channel, and if you will, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit the bell so you're notified next time I post a video. And if you want to support me further, you can become a channel member or a patron. Links in the description below. So let's get into this chilling tale. Carter, what does it want? Why won't it stop following us? She screeched to her boyfriend of only 1 month. The young man had a look of terror in his face and continued to walk backwards next to Ashley. They were off trail, but the openness was eerie with opportunity. Trees and tall grass, some hills. The curious creature seemed almost shy as it followed them, occasionally hiding behind a tree, only to charge back out and continue. It always kept about 10 feet between itself and the scared humans. "Hey, bear!" "Whoa, bear!" Carter yelled, but the bear seemed to completely ignore his efforts to scare it off. Its strength seemed unmatchable. As it moved through the brush and hillside with ease after the young couple, it would stop and gaze for a moment, and then jump up onto a tree, climb up a few feet, only to jump back down again and continue its pursuit, as if it were trying to show the couple how powerful it was and how capable. The bear did this several times over the course of a few minutes, emboldening itself in the sight of the humans. It would hop down from a tree and walk faster toward them, with its back hunched up like a cat, as if it were trying to stand taller as it walked on all fours after them. Perhaps another method in showcasing its dominance and capabilities to the two. A strong bear, a capable bear, a dangerous bear. The Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park, located in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, encompasses 60,000 acres of old-growth forest and Lake Superior shoreline. Miles of trails with beautiful views make the park a popular tourist destination during the summer months, and especially the fall, when changing colors on the deciduous trees turn the landscape into a work of art. The famous Lake of the Clouds is perhaps the most photographed site in the Upper Peninsula, with leaf peepers coming from all over the country at peak color season to take in the sight. The Porcupine Mountains have a small but active population of black bears. Visitors to the park are warned that an increase in bear activity has occurred over the recent years. There is signage to remind campers to correctly store food. However, in 2021, there were multiple overnight raids in the campgrounds, sometimes with more than a dozen coolers being broken into in one night. Despite the natural beauty in and around his hometown of Wattanagen, Carter grew up playing video games and shying away from sports. He stood only 5'9" and weighed about 150 pounds. He wore thick-framed glasses and played Dungeons and Dragons, enjoyed going to the local pubs with his friends, and only recently met Ashley. who most likely saw a friend in him over anything else. There was something about the small, docile man that attracted her for but a moment. Ashley grew up thinking black bears were cute and cuddly, and the brown ones were the ones of trouble. This was the first time she'd seen one out in the wild. Aside from a few times next to the ice cream shop near where she lives with her family, the black bears were fat and pudgy there, and lazy too, and seemed to completely ignore the humans, who would watch them in awe and wonder, licking their ice cream cones from a distance. Those bears seemed tame. They hung out by the trash cans, digging through them throughout the evenings. The trash was all they seemed to mind. The owner of the ice cream shop never did anything about their presence. Perhaps he saw them as an opportunity to save money on garbage disposal, or perhaps he noticed them as tourist attractions. But nonetheless, the bears never seemed dangerous at all. And those were the only bears that Ashley had ever seen. But this one was something else. Its muscle could be seen moving through its skin as it lurched closer and closer to the couple. The bear grew more brazen the longer the couple tolerated it, and they knew they had to make a move. Without thinking, Ashley pulled out her cell phone and threw it at the animal as hard as she could. She missed, and the cell phone hissed past its face and into the thick grass. The bear stopped and looked back, only to fix its gaze back onto the young, vulnerable female. The two were about a mile from the trailhead and parking lot where their car was parked. Both of them had a horrible feeling within that something horrid was about to happen, and that they might never see tomorrow. Ashley fell into a trance for but a moment, recalling a recent grizzly bear attack she overheard hunting friends at school talking about. A young man was elk hunting with his bow not far from Yellowstone last fall, and he startled a massive male grizzly bear while walking through a dense shrub near Duck Lake. The bear charged and tackled the man, giving him no time to react, and viciously mauled him, digging gaping wounds into his flesh. The man's body was found the next day with his head ripped off and his arms shredded. Ashley could now see the strength that these animals were capable of. This black bear following her was much smaller than a grizzly bear Bruin, but compared to her dog back at home, it was evident that it could kill 2 full-grown adults with ease. They were walking quickly backward while facing the bear, and as she watched, the bear jumped forward and took a quick swat as Ashley jumped back, its claws shredding a wound in her calf. After the attempt, it fell back and looked at both humans warily, as if it had been testing them. Seeing this, Carter turned and ran, as he knew they weren't far from the car now. Ashley turned with him, but stumbled on some tree roots, falling flat on her side. It was at this point when the bear saw the opportunity and lunged at the downed female, now alone. She tried to kick it in the face, but was only wearing a pair of wedge sandals, and the bear simply swatted her legs out of the way and crawled on top of her, mounting her like a wrestler. Carter could hear the screams and cries as he continued to run toward the entrance of the park. Carter's heart grew heavy as the screams grew increasingly faint. He could already feel the social humiliation he'd receive if he abandoned the young, helpless woman, especially to the likes of a dangerous predator. So he stopped, searched for a large stick, and returned to the vicious scene. He returned to the terrible sight of the bear atop Ashley's seemingly lifeless body, with the bear rubbing its underside all over her, perhaps marking its cache, scraping its tail on her back and butt. Carter stood frozen in horror, sure that Ashley was dead. But then he noticed her arm move. keeping it from the bear's reach. The young man charged the bear with a stick and struck it on the forehead. The bear groaned and lurched off of Ashley and began pursuing the man. Carter stood his ground, readying the stick like a baseball bat. The bear, perceiving the man's dominance, stood on its hind legs to showcase its own. It stood taller than Carter, perhaps around 6 foot, and began edging toward him. Carter lifted the stick above his head and swung downward onto the bear's skull, and it startled the creature, sending it back down on all fours. It began walking back toward Ashley as though it only wanted her, but Carter charged it again, yelling with the stick in hand. The bear dashed away from him, leaving Ashley's body, and Carter hovered over it as a means of protection. The bear stood on all fours, breathing heavily, gazing at the two humans with drool oozing from its mouth. Carter yelled at it again, but this time it didn't move. It just stood there, watching them. "Ashley!" he exclaimed. She moaned and softly answered him. Miraculously, he was able to help her to her feet. She had one arm severely injured, and her forehead was dripping blood from a wound on her head. The two stood there, facing the bear, and it seemed to take notice that the two humans had gained footing once again, and were now more of a threat than what they were moments ago. The bear paused and evaluated, giving the pair time to back away, putting more distance between them and the bear, and this time, Carter was armed with a stick. They managed to get back to their car, and Carter rushed Ashley to the nearest hospital. Authorities were sent out trying to find the predatory bear, but no signs of it were found anywhere, and nor was it understood why the animal attacked in the first place. Jeez, what do you guys think about that chilling tale? It's crazy how much people underestimate black bears, and how formidable they can actually be. This isn't the first time I've heard of a scenario where a black bear attacked a human being while there were other humans present. And they're very opportunistic, and I would guess that the two in their small stature definitely intrigued the animal. But I'm curious what you guys have to say about this bear attack in the comments below. And again, if you will, like this video and paw that bell so you're notified next time I post. And stay tuned for more chilling tales from the Iceman.